afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Zahn Academy. Today's webinar is Digital Dentures, Lean and Mean with the Power of Lucitone Digital Print. And we are so lucky to have John Johnson with us, who is a CDT and the CEO of Johnson Dental Laboratory in Florida. And he's going to be discussing with you his own experiences with Lucitone Digital Print and what it did for his laboratory. So John, thank you so much for opening up Johnson Dental Lab for all of our customers. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Fran. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And John has prepared some poll questions for us. So please, we would love it for you to be interactive with us. I'm going to launch a few of them throughout his presentation. So if you wouldn't mind just answering those questions for us, so John knows like how he should be able to diversify the presentation. He'll also be doing a live Q&A at the very end. So if you have any questions, please type them in to the bottom of your screen, and we'll do that, like I said, at the end of the presentation. So I'd like to welcome everybody. And again, here's John. Enjoy, everyone.
Hey, welcome, everybody. Hey, listen, first I want to thank you. Thank you, Fran, for organizing this webinar through Zahn and with partnership with Dentsply Sirona. I'm a 20-year technician, CDT and complete dentures. Been at this for a very long time. My laboratory is strictly a removables laboratory, so we were not privy to the early adaptations of the digital dentistry within Crown and Bridge. So it was a little bit of a bigger leap for a strictly removables lab to jump into this, especially a little bit of a smaller lab. But I've been so fortunate throughout the years. Like I said, 20 years of experience. I was really gifted some great advice in getting educated properly. I've worked in a medium-sized lab for a while before breaking off into my own. And I've just been so fortunate. Breaking off into my own, Zahn really, for the lack of better words, held my hand through the process. Helped me really open my lab, helped me really be invested in my success early on. And I've got a couple reps. I'm not going to say their names, but I've got a couple reps that have really helped me out over the years. And I've got the same experience with Dentsply Sirona. There's a couple guys that really held my hand through this process as to when the right time to start this digital journey. And I'm super appreciative of them. And if they ever see this, they know who they are. And with that said, this is LDP. This material, I was an analog technician, and we still do a ton of cases in the analog fashion. But adopting this process 3 years ago has really, really rejuvenated my career, and given me something to really figure out and something to really get behind and enjoy. And I want to share that with you guys today. So this is LDP. This is the Lean and Mean with the Power of Lucitone Digital Print. And let's get started. Fran, if you don't mind, will you launch that first poll question and we'll jump into it?
I will get that first poll out to you right now.
Okay.
And this is a two-part. So if you wouldn't mind just answering for us. Thank you.
Perfect. So if you're not familiar with LDP, it's a system of design that moves on to printers, moves on to CAD, moves on to the mill. They even have carded teeth options. This slide kind of gives a little bit of a flow chart as to where you're going to end up and how you're going to utilize the product. One of the beginning parts of this, when this product was launched, it was strictly kind of focused on dentures. Since it's been out for a little while now, we've started to adapt and we've started to utilize other appliances like partials. You see here in this screen, there's partials with wrought wire clasp that you can embed. There's partials with acrylic clasp that you can design. This is indicated for overdentures. You can repair this material just as you would any other methylmethacrylate. And then also flippers. So that's a cool thing. And we're going to go through a couple of things just to show you how that gets set up. What you need to get started. It's kind of the big undertaking. You've got to have the right CAD system that fits you. you've got to have, you've got to have your computing system, you've got to have cleaning equipment, you've got to have the printers, and then you've got to have the training. And once you get through that part, you will be very excited. I am an Asiga user, just to be transparent. Right now, Carbon Asigas are validated, and then I hear mumblings that a few more printers will be validated in the near future, which is very exciting. Just make the market more competitive and more accessible to all of us. This is kind of a review of that workflow. You're going to go into the CAD. You're going to send that data over to your print. You're going to clean your parts properly. You're going to fuse them all together. You're going to cure in a validated curing unit. And we'll go through each and all of these as we get in.
Hey, John, I have the results for you so that, you can comment on it. So out of our attendees, 13% are fabricating dentures digitally, and the other 88% are not. And out of the 13%, 40% of them are using Lucitone digital print, and 60% are not.
Okay, good to hear. Good to hear. Now, those numbers are pretty close to almost national averages. That's what we're kind of seeing in the industry right now. I think they project roughly 18 to 20% of dentures are being fabricated digitally. I'm going to go in and kind of talk about why LDP made the most sense for me, and why I made that basically my backbone into my digital journey. So hopefully for those that are using LDP, you learned something today. Hopefully for those that are using some other different materials, maybe you try the LDP just because you're already into the workflows. That's one thing me and Fran were discussing the other day. These products are not like just putting a new acrylic into your existing system. These are systems that you have to learn, you've got to adopt, and I'm going to show you why this is the one that you'd like to go with. And for the 88%, take a close look at some of the items that we can utilize as far as time savings. One thing I like people to think about, because when I've been into a few of the laboratories and presented in front of a few groups, what I see is a little bit of an older generation of technicians. And I have fears that we're not going to pass along that analog knowledge. And eventually we're all going to try to be staring at these computers and printers and trying to figure out how to get, basically our communities serviced. And that's something that even if you're an older technician, that's something that you really need to kind of take to heart and try to give your knowledge to somebody. Let's go into the print-based properties so we can talk about some of the strengths of the materials. Now, LDP comes in 5 shades. Kind of highlighted a few of the things because I want to get into the more fun stuff. But the bottles, the liquid resin comes in, you can get approximately 47 arches out of it, and it's roughly about $18 an arch. Now, what's really cool, if you're not designing, when you're in your designs, once you've created your design, you can really see what your output is going to be, and you can go into the build properties and see exactly, once you put in how much money that bottle of material costs you, you can calculate exactly how much that print is going to cost you for that particular case. So that's a really neat feature of digital dentistry. This is this chart here was one of the big ones that made me feel very comfortable with going into this. Now, when all this stuff first started coming out a few years ago, everyone was skeptical, and I think we, for the most part, some still are. But this slide goes, I used Lucitone 199 for years and years, and so did tons and tons of technicians. So you can see that these strength numbers are very comparable to 199. The only difference is this 1100 to this 3047. And that's due to its ability to, as it warms up, its ability to get stronger. And we'll go over that in a moment. So this material, this print process is very accurate. You can see the scan up in the far left, where it shows the print accuracy from the models to the scan to the print. And then all of this stuff has been validated and tested, really scrutinized quite a bit. and it's strong. This is that chart of that. As this material warms up while it's in the mouth, it becomes more resistant to fracture, which is a really neat feature that you really don't think about. And to be honest, I think it was an accident. So it's kind of a happy little accident, like Bob Ross. And this is a little quick video of the testing that they put the base through. And it's just amazing how far that will bend before it breaks. Very cool. Oh. Sorry. And let's go into the teeth. So when you get into your package of Dentsply Sirona, you're going to get the DMEs for the portrait molds, and you're also going to get the DMEs for the Genos molds. Now, those molds come with 9 upper anteriors, 6 lower anteriors, and then they hit on all the popular size posteriors. When you go into design, I'm a 3-shape user. So when you go in through the design, you can either set in a balanced occlusion or you can set in a lingualized occlusion based on what your preferences are. But as you can see, the Genos is that more aggressive kind of European molds, and then your portraits are, that's your standard that your clients have been used to using for years. This is an example of, well, I didn't really describe that. So there's 2 different sides. So you can either have portrait that's normal, or you can have highly characterized portrait. They took a guy out of MIT, out of Boston, who's got a doctorate in 3D printing to collaborate and design denture teeth that would appear translucent, that would appear to have mamelons. And it's pretty cool how that's one monolithic material that looks like a multi-layered tooth. If you could see the one on the left, the highly characterized, it's really cool. This goes into the IPN denture, the resin for printing of the teeth. Now, a lot of mine, I typically in my laboratory, I use the IPN, and I'll go into why here shortly. But you can see that price point at $12 an arch for IPN strength is incredible based off of what we've been paying for denture teeth all these years. You can see they come in all the different shades that the Vita shades that you're accustomed to. They've got even a few bleach shades if you need any. The only thing that I will say with this is you need to understand that there is a shelf life with the product. So carrying these popular shades is going to be something that you're going to want to try to do before, you really don't want to buy the whole gambit unless you're going to be able to utilize it. So it's something that you would want to feel out, make sure you're hitting on all your big shades, like your A1s, your A2s, your A3s, B1s, and then kind of work from there. This is what was really cool to me. Whenever I started looking into this IPN denture teeth resin, I always in the back of my mind, for whatever reason, felt like there's no way that it's going to be printed. There's just no way they're going to be able to match that wear resistance of the IPN. And they did. They hit it right on the head. You could see that 0.09 through the wear testing that they've done. And that, to me, that's really incredible. And like I said, and that's just a confidence booster in moving forward with the product. They also have a value print. If you're interested in doing any kind of economy dentures, and it's $6 compared to $12 an arch. So that's, to me, I would rather have the strength and deliver that to my patients and my clinicians over the actual value print. But what I do with this quite a bit is I utilize it for all of my try-ins. And as you can see, the try-in arch is 1970. And that comes out in just like these dentures are shown here, it comes out in a monolithic tooth shade appearance for your try-in, which is a little bit different. And we're going to get into how some of that communication changes and how to work with your clinicians on making them feel comfortable with it. You can see the wear testing on the value print is 0.7. So going back to the IPN, it's 0.09, which meaning there's less wear over time than the 0.7. That 0.7 is estimated to be roughly around the same wear as like a classic denture tooth, just to put that in perspective. And this is another try-in material. They also have the multi-layer PMMM pucks that you can mill from to do these monolithic try-ins. I just personally use the value prints. And this is also something that they can take home, they can try, they can wear, because it's going to have the same properties in design that you are going to be in your final product. And that's one of the really cool things with designing digitally is you design it once and you finish it. This is a picture of the try-in dentures. And what I like to do, and we'll get into it, the step 3 fuse sealer that we use on final dentures, I like to go ahead and just put that on my anteriors and maybe even back into those premolars just a little bit, just so that the patient doesn't see a dull monolithic white tooth. I want to give them some sheen and make them happy about that try-in appointment. Now, try-ins, like I said, try-ins change a little bit. You don't have teeth set in wax. You can't just warm wax and manipulate teeth. So your communication has to change a little bit within these try-ins. So I always tell my clinicians, if there's slight adjustments of the occlusion, you can do that at the try-in step, right? Or you can anticipate that you might need to do a little bit of adjustments at the final. If they do make adjustments, I always tell them, hey, please let me know that you made the adjustments and take a bite. And then that way, when they do that, I'm able to seat these dentures back on their models. I'm able to rescan them in that new orientation. And then I'm able to go back through my design and give them a new tooth arrangement based on that change of models, that change of bite. And then you don't have any adjustments at the end. And then one of the things that I discovered as I got into this, I always print my bases. So I print my bases and do my wax rims. And let me go into this before I jump off too far. The printed base plates are the same exact accuracy as what my dentures are. So that's one really, really cool thing about the try-in step, or even the wax rim step, is knowing that your fit is going to be the fit from that point to the end. So I always tell my clinicians, if you're not satisfied with the fit that you have right now, we've got to figure out something, because it's not going to change. Because print technology is 1 for 1. There's not liquid powder ratios. What you design is what the printer is going to output. So, the days of light curing a base plate and having a little bit of a warping of that material and it doesn't fit perfectly on the model, and we tell our clinicians, oh, it'll fit better in the end, it'll fit better in the end. And I'm sure we've all said those things. This system, you don't have to, which is a big relief. But the other thing that I discovered as I got into this is, with doing printed bases and doing wax rims, you're going to a try-in now that's an independent piece. It's independent from that wax rim. My wax rim doesn't get destroyed and denture teeth set on it. It's still in my case pan. So if I have a bite that's way off, I always tell people, hey, let's take a look at the upper. Let's take a look at the incisal ledge. Let's take a look at the midline. Let's take a look at the plane of occlusion. And then let's take a new bite into that lower wax rim. And then again, we rescan in, and it's a really nice way to work through a case. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on how I work with that in a later video. We're still on teeth. So there is carded teeth. When this product was originally launched, it was kind of launched around this 3D IPN. And when it first came out, you had dimensional challenges, really. You had to have a certain vertical dimension to be able to utilize these, because within the design steps, you let the system know that that's what you're going to use, these carded teeth. And then you can't customize any of the teeth. You can't change the lengths, the widths, which is another great factor in when you're doing milled or you're doing printed, you're completely customizable from start to finish. But that is an option if you do want that multi-layer IPN too. There is that option. And as you see, there's the 16A through D shade availability, along with the $24.50 per card, roughly. And this is a summary of the denture teeth that are available to you. Like I said, I prefer the far right Lucitone IPN 3D premium tooth. That photo there has that Fuse 3 sealer on it, and you can really see that surface texture on those denture teeth, and that's how the dentures look. So it's really nice. This will be up if you need to go back to it later. Once you get through with your bases and your teeth, then you're going to get those outputs and you're going to print those items separately. You're going to print your tooth material, you're going to print your base material, and then you're going to have bonding agents that you're going to use after the fact once you've cleaned all your materials properly. And we can go through those. This conditioning agent is you have to prep the backside of those carded teeth with a heated electric plate in that metal container kit. Like I said, I've been through the training and I've been trained on how to use this. I've never utilized this just because print fit my business model way better. So I've been trained on this, but I would prefer to print. And when you print, you don't have to condition because that material is ready to be bonded to the base. So from there, you're going to step into the step 2 bonding resin, and it's shaded. So you kind of want to make sure that you match up with whichever shade you're using, whether it's original or light pink, dark pink. And you can see that price point is $44 roughly. And then that Fuse 3, that step 3 sealer is a glaze that originally when the product was launched, originally it was kind of a close all the gaps between where the step 2, maybe if you missed a little bit of step 2 on your fuse, it was going to fill the gaps. And then as they painted this stuff on the teeth and into the cervicals, they realized that the overflow was getting on the bases a little bit. And they were like, wow, this really gives this denture a high luster. I wonder if we can utilize this and kind of eliminate a lot of the pumicing. And that's what we really promote now. And that's how I produce my dentures. So I would go print my bases, print my teeth, clean my parts, fuse with step 3. And then I'm painting the entire denture with that step 3 total, that 3D sealer. So those are those options, and we'll go more in depth. This is that step 3. And as you see, it doesn't cost much money. This stuff is really thin, goes a long ways, and it really just makes the product beautiful. Fran, if you wouldn't mind, would you launch those other poll questions, please? Those couple in the middle.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the benefits of going. The digital dentures is really the benefit. Thank you, Fran. The digital denture workflows give laboratories, clinicians, and patients just such a great experience. The number one line on this is attract new patients, which I think we got to kind of work backwards here a little bit. But the dentists are able to have a much more predictable outcome to what the workflow is going to look like. There's much better communication with patients. We'll get into some of that just because of how the data is shared, how we're able to save data, and how we're able to utilize that to really get that end product exactly what that patient's looking for. One other thing that I didn't go over, but it kind of fits in line with saving time for the doc. My laboratory, the monolithic try-in that we would do, which is the tooth shaded value print, I did that for a while until I qualified my doctors. Once I've got a few doctors under my belt where everything was okay, this looks great, let's go to finish, I started really going back and kind of doing the math. Like the cost I set on that arch was like $19. So I started doing the math and started figuring out the time as far as post processing, cleaning the parts. You still have to cure that try-in. I started to decide that it was worth taking the gamble on taking cases to finish. So I still utilize that appointment as a try-in if needed. but more times than not, that try-in appointment turns into a delivery appointment, which my clinicians love. So essentially, if you were doing a traditional denture in which we took models, we took base plates and wax rims, from that base plate and wax rim, if my clinician put some effort in that wax rim and he was good at what he did, then I would take that case straight to finish. So let's talk about for the lab. So that's one of the biggest chair time savings items that I found initially. I found an even bigger one, and I'll go into that a little bit at the very end. But there's the real ability to save clinicians time in a predictable way. We're not skipping steps. We're not trying to jump through hoops. We're saving times because the digital records allow us to do so. And it gives me the ability to not be finalized. If I set teeth in wax, I go through a process, send it off to my doc. I've got the risk of ruining my model. I've got if that denture doesn't fit, I've just wasted a lot of time. So the digital system allows you to really take some risk. For the lab, like I said, the consistency is where it's at. The learning curve, if you understand building dentures from the analog setting, then once you get past setting up an order form, you get in and the system kind of walks you step by step, and it takes you through steps that you're accustomed to. It takes you through steps that there's no hard questions once you get inside the system. And that's what's really nice. When you understand an analog denture, you can build a digital denture very effectively. But for me on the lab side, I get a digital record. So that's really cool. So when you create something, I've had many patients that they've fabricated a new denture. Doctor call me up in a month and say, hey, Mrs. Jones loves her denture. Is there any way that she can get a backup denture? And we're not starting over. I'm going to the computer and I'm going to print another one out. So that's also been a great item. And again, for the patient, fewer appointments. The fits are amazing, like I said, because they're one-to-one. Their patient experience, if a doc has any kind of technology, their experience is so much better than going through a zillion steps to get to the end result. So I've got lab technicians that I went to school with, and we all have, we have these conversations, and everyone's at a different place, geographically, and everyone feels that we are just losing technicians. And it's just the truth. It's getting harder and harder and harder to find technicians. There's no schools. Honestly, it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous for our population. And I think that the only thing that we're going to be able to do to combat any of these shortages is to turn to 3D printers and really giving yourself the ability to scale beyond what you're able to produce in an analog setting. And LDP gives you that ability. So let's talk about the lab, the time savings. Like I said, a lot of this stuff I didn't know, and when we talk about these products and we talk about what the product can do for you, it really doesn't tell the full picture of what's actually going to happen within your laboratory. Because yes, you're gonna deliver a nice product, you're gonna deliver a strong product, and it's gonna be accurate and consistent. So that's a great thing just in itself. But the little small things that start to add up in a big way, they just start showing up. So I'll show you in some of my videos later on. A lot of my denture cases, they never touch an articulator. So in my laboratory, I've cut down a lot of articulations. Because of the one-to-one print, there's really no need for any kind of equilibrations after the fact, after processing, because it is a one-to-one design to print. I don't spend nearly any time at all managing my tooth cabinet. Now I've had a big stock that I've been working down for the last 3 years. But I don't feel the pain of having to manage that tooth stock anymore. You know, and as you all know, we used to, probably pre-COVID and pre-digital dentures, we used to see a lot of reps, and we used to get a lot of orders, and things have changed, things have shifted, and the tooth cabinet's a big part of it. The try-ins that turn into finals, if a try-in goes out and nothing needs to be done, I am just going to my computer and pressing print, excuse me, and moving into final. There's no looting it down in wax. There's no sending it over to my employee to process. There's none of that. It's going straight into its final process right away. I love kind of makes me smirk every time I am able to leave my office and turn on a 3-hour print. That is probably one of my favorite things to do. And now I've recently purchased another printer, and it's really cool when you get to a point where you have started to max out a printer and your answer is to get another printer. So, you know, the scalability of this product is as much as you can put on the printer and as much as you can put together. So the ability to gain new work is there. And like I said, there's many other digital applications beyond just dentures, RPDs, just splints. The list goes on and on. So Fran, did you have those results on the polling?
I do, John. So as far as time savings and scaling and growing their business, 100% of our attendees said yes, they want to save time and adopt a workflow that will allow them to save time. And they're all saying, yes, I want to scale and grow my business. So that's fantastic.
Great.
And as far as struggling to find, competent and, technicians out there, 40% are saying, yes, they are struggling to find technicians. So
yeah, for sure. Well, I don't want to be too redundant here, but that's kind of what this slide is kind of asking those questions. Like I said, I know that we all have those conversations, amongst our laboratories, amongst our friends. Like I said, people outside of our industry, they ask me how things are going, and like I said, I just tell them we're in a ever-changing place that is slightly scary, but we're there. But we're in it together, which is cool. So lab communication. What you'll notice if you're already doing design work, if you've already done Crown and Bridge, you're already really accustomed to receiving scans through the different portals. So for me, that's a really cool back and forth. Like the removables world was really kind of a proximity business. Like there was a lot of back and forth. And you were moving case bands all the time. With the ability to, share scans and build from scans and do different things, it just makes the process much more efficient. Now, I talked about the digital record before. Digital records are really great as far as if you wanted to reproduce a denture. They're great if you need a weirdo opposing model that you currently have. Like clinician calls you up and says, hey, do you happen to have any models for so-and-so? Yeah, let me see what I've got. The mouth's an ever-changing place, but depending on the situations, you might be able to utilize some of those items. I talked about verifying the fit at those bite appointments. And that's, like I said, that's a great thing. The scannable try-ins are great for the adjustments. It's a great communication tool. Like I said, we'll go more in depth in that. Those wax records remain intact. And then denture or reference denture opportunities are what is the direction that our industry is going to move in, and something that everyone really needs to get a grip on, because it's going to be highly competitive, and it's going to be something that you're going to want to be doing. Let's go into some of the workflows. Now, like I said before, some of the rooms that I've been in the past, one of the biggest things is having a little bit of fear of using the computer. I'm here to tell you that I am not a computer guru. I was talking to a technician the other day about, he just recently purchased a package on getting a printer and getting all the LDP material in front of him. And I mentioned to him don't be afraid of the computer. I'll help you out. And this guy's probably 10 years older than me, and he told me more about computers than I've ever heard. So I am not computer savvy in the least. Everyone can see here that this is traditionally how we would set teeth and wax, and this kind of overlays and gives it when you get into the digital design elements, you'll notice that those same exact steps, same exact thought processes are still going to go through your mind, and you're still going to have to utilize those to create this denture. Now, this is a work order. This is a 3 shape, and I'm setting up a work order for a complete denture. Now, for me, when I jumped into this is kind of it's kind of the biggest thing that you've got to learn early on, and that's just how to set up your work order. Because what 3 shape did is they created this screen that we can tell it that we want to make crowns. We can tell it we want to make bridges. We can tell it we want to make dentures, partials. So they had to make this screen where it's got it all there in front of you, and you have to have the ability to tell it what it is. It's kind of racing faster than my words. But as you can see, I've selected the teeth that I want to produce. Up in that far right, I clicked on the anatomy, and I told it that I wanted to use the loose stone digital print libraries, the Dentsply Surround libraries. And then I also told it how I wanted to produce my gingiva. That first one has a picture of a denture with sockets. That denture with sockets tells the system that I want to print a separate base along with my denture teeth. And then you also have to tell it exactly which material you would like to use, because that's kind of built into the software and built into the outputs. And then I'll let it get back to it. But as you went through, there's also multiple options as to how you'd like to produce your denture teeth. Now, I prefer to produce my denture teeth in quadrants. So I would select posterior quadrants, anterior quadrants, and then I would bridge them. And that just tells the software to give me that step later on so that I can make these connections. So that's me showing you where the sockets are there. And now I'm selecting my LDP. And this is that bridging step. So I'm making that posterior quadrant, and you just have to click bridge. And that's it. And I'll do that around all the quadrants. This is me scanning physical models that we had wax rims. So I'm just kind of showing the scanning process if you haven't seen that yet. And then this is my virtual articulation. Now in my lab, we score the underside of models. I use hot glue gun, toothpicks, whatever the case would be to get this case mounted on an articulator. And this is what I do now. Hold the thing very still. I scan the right bite. And then and it's prompting me to do all these things. And then I'll scan the left bite. And then once you get past that, then they'll run you through, and then you do all of your alignment steps. And you can be sure that you aligned those properly based on how you were holding them together. So for me, when I first got into this, the virtual articulation, again, it's something that you're leery of. It's a little bit of a leap. But I've now got close to 3 years under my belt of producing dentures this way, with not a single doctor has come back and said, hey, the bite is extremely off outside of typical try-ins and all those other instances. This is me just kind of showing you there's an array of articulator options, whatever you're used to, and you can make those digital adjustments anywhere. You can make all those Bennett moves, the condylar guidance. You can make all those adjustments. You can also open and close the articulator. I'm not sure if it actually showed that part yet. But yeah, that's exactly how I would mount the case in the physical world, and that's how it sets in the digital world. So, and then that's showing you right there where you could open the articulator. And then all you would do once you do that is you would just hit the lock, and that locks you in place. So it still gives you the freedom to utilize the digital articulator the same way you would as if it was in your hands. This is a denture design. kind of sped up this little video just so we could get through it today because I want to cover a lot of things. Characteristic points, boundaries. Again, these are all items that we all know and we all think of as we're creating dentures physically. And I'll let it work its way through. Another really cool feature is the blockout feature is really nice because you can utilize the undercuts that you want to utilize, and you can block out some areas that may be a little bit too aggressive. So this really gives you almost it's a surveyed denture essentially. Gives you a lot of freedom there to produce something that you'd like. Tooth arrangement, movements, side to side, up and down. You can elongate the teeth. You can shorten the teeth. You can use multiple tools. You can customize every single tooth in that arrangement if you would like. Moving past that, you're going to create the bases, and you're going to create them based on min thicknesses, and then the computer will generate those bases. Then you're able to manipulate those. That part there, I was showing you how the articulator functions, how you can run through excursive movements, how you can make adjustments. Like I said, this video is a little bit quick just because I want to get through it. There's your denture ID if you wanted to do those. Some Rugai characterization because I can see through the denture. It's a really cool feature, depending on your clinicians. And you're able to manipulate this just like it was wax. Once you get used to it, like I said, I'm not crazy computer savvy, and there's things that you can do. There's endless amounts. You could write your name in this denture if you'd like. There's stippling options. I don't stipple a ton, but if you wanted to, it's there. And then it'll have you work through your complete upper and your complete lower. Now, loose tone digital print has to be supported. So you have to support the print itself through the printing process and the curing process. And that's just to assure you that you get that print accuracy that we went over earlier. And this is me just kind of placing these T-bars. And then it's going to run through and make the copings for all the denture teeth. So it's like creating those sockets. And then the final step is where it's going to create all your outputs. It's going to cut right at that CEJ and give you a monolithic denture. It'll give you the upper lower monolithic, which could be considered your try-in dentures. It'll give you the two STLs that would be your bases, which would be basically like this lower with the sockets. And it'll give you all the individual quadrants that you would like. And like I said, you can utilize that however you want to within your laboratory. You can print single teeth, you can print full arches, you can print half arches. I wanted to display the immediate denture. One really cool thing about immediate dentures is traditionally in the analog world, we're going to rip those, mount the model, we're going to rip those teeth off and then they're gone. We're going to make some notations on the lower, maybe as to where the midline is, where the incisal edge is. What's great is I can digitally remove those teeth from the model, and my model still sits in my case pan. And then it also, as I get into the smile design step, it allows me to have that upper right-hand corner, the tooth with the little gold round dome on it, is that original scan that is their existing dentition. So I'm able to create my smile design overlaid over there. So I can follow cants, I can follow any kind of nuances that person already has. And that's something that you have to really communicate with your doctors because, and I showed them this exact slide because this denture is a little bit canted. And I have to communicate with my clinicians that if you give me an immediate denture, I'm going to try to follow as closely to what they have. Obviously we have to make some improvements, but if you don't want this cant, you have to communicate that with me. So it's just another great communication tool. This is a setup for like an acrylic partial work order. You'll set it up the same exact way. You just have to identify which teeth you'd like to produce. So you're still going to click on those teeth. You're still going to tell it that you want to use the Dentsply Sirona tooth libraries. You're still going to tell it that you want to produce it in LDP. Now, what you got to do with getting a little bit creative is how you want to bridge them is a little bit different than what you would do in like I said, a denture's easy because it's quadrants. So if it's 3 teeth on the left, 1 or 2 teeth on the right, you got to decide which ones you'd like to bridge together for your final process. This particular case is just a single quadrant on the one side, so I bridge it there. And then I kind of just go through, and I believe it's going to work through. So you see the characteristic points, even though there's teeth present. One big thing in design, if anyone is designing with 3Shape and using LDP, you see how I'm overlaying that tooth. That gives the software, when you move into that base generation, it doesn't trip it up when you get there. Now you get kind of a funny output because it's going to give you that minimum thickness that you ask for. But you're able to come back and you're able to reduce that with your sculpting tools. Again, this is another really cool, like all that yellow that you see on the inside of those teeth, that is an undercut depth. So you can really get pretty precise with how much undercut you are exposing or how much you want to block out. So that's a really cool feature to be able to control. And that's kind of just upper lower setup. Now with this, you could either generate acrylic clasp if you wanted to, or you could later on cut and bury and light cure wrought wire clasp in there. And like I said, it's all case dependent, and you pick which one fits you the best and go from there. Again, we're going to go over this is a flipper order form. Now this is a single tooth flipper. So you're only going to select one tooth. You're still going to select your libraries. You're still going to select that you want to produce a pink base. Now with this, it's got nothing to bridge to. So the only different in this one, it kind of gives you a little bit of a different output file. When you go into your output files at the very end, it will have a monolithic print, which would be the tooth in place. It'll give you the base with the socket. And then there's usually a little file that'll say like arch teeth. And that's usually where all your single teeth end up. So you're still able to go find it, put it on the build tray, and be able to print it. And this is that flipper design. Again, it's going to take you through all those same steps. You're going to make your boundaries. Again, see how I'm lapping over those proximal teeth. And actually, I'll let this one show you exactly how that output kind of comes out a little bit funny at the end when you get to the gingiva part of it. The one thing I really like about doing flippers digitally, it seems like a lot of work for the money sometimes, but your print accuracy, like you could see this one had very little undercuts. Your print accuracy really helps a ton when you've got very little undercut because the fit is so accurate. Also, like how I can manipulate this denture tooth like it's crown and bridge if I want to. And it's a little bit different than going to the tooth counter, finding a tooth that'll fit this flipper, grinding on it. You know, it's just a lot easier to manipulate. And then this is a min thickness of 2.5, and I'll show you. It's got that overlapping. It's gonna see how it makes that little bit of a weird output. But you're able to go back through and sculpt that back to the socket that you would like. You have to get through that step to get there. This is that try-in. So I'm already at the smile design step, and I've already went through all the redesign steps. So this particular case, I rescanned in. I rescanned this case in. So when you go back in from the rescan, it basically replaces your models within your order. So in this design, everything has quadrants essentially. And when you move models within those quadrants, now that corresponds with where your base was laid out, where your tooth arrangement was laid out. So you have to go back through those redesign steps and make sure that your boundaries don't just have to change a little bit, or your anatomical landmarks need to change a little bit. But what's great is because you've already had a try-in and now you've rescanned with the try-in. So I'm not scanning a new bite with the wax rim. I'm rescanning the actual physical denture that's going to be that was there at the try-in. So that try-in comes in and it gives me all of my information that I had before. So when you can communicate, like just say it's a midline issue, if doc says, hey, the midline needed to move over 2 millimeters to the left, I'm able to pull up that denture and manipulate that arrangement to get to the communication. So, and that's the same goes for incisal plane, the incisal edge position, the plane of occlusion. All those communication aspects can be easily corrected because you can see it and you can overlay it. And that's just been a really good communication tool for me in my laboratory. So this is another, kind of something that you got to learn. This is the nesting. Like I said, I'm an Asiga user, so I'm showing you how I nest these products. Now, I liked to do all of mine vertically. When I first got trained, when I first opened up, everything was done kind of on its face in the facial aspect of the denture. But there was just so much finishing that you needed to do because you had all the supports that would go on the facial aspect of my denture. And I don't want to do any kind of gingival characterization and then cover it up with a support that I'm eventually going to have to grind off, polish. So I have always printed mine vertically. Now Asiga doesn't have a fencing option like Carbon does. So I kind of create my own fence. And what you have to really think about is the printer has a build platform that's going to go down into the resin and it's going to work its way up. So essentially you could take a ream of copy paper and consider that as your slices, right? Any part of that print that arches over where it doesn't have anything below it is unsupported. So when you come into these support tools, you'll tell it that you want to suspend your print by 2 millimeters and you want to have you don't want any supports taller than this, and it'll spit out an output that potentially will print, but you still got to be vigilant and you've got to go back in and you've got to really make sure that that print isn't going to fail you. And I've learned to do this through fencing of those segments. And like I said, you learn what to look for. We learn very well through failure, and you learn how you fail, when you fail, and how to not do it again. And it's one of the great things about being a technician. So I nested the try-ins, I nested the dentures. Now I want to show you how we nest the denture teeth. This build platform is the size of the Asiga Max, if anybody was concerned with that. So I set all these teeth and I like to set them up in a direction where it's kind of easy for me to manipulate because I'm going to rotate all of these 20 degrees. And that gets all those supports away from my facial aspect of my teeth. And then I'll go and generate. Now it generates supports. Now I always go and check. I don't just trust the system. I always go and check, see if there's any need for new. And one thing to note with LDP, all of the connectors between the teeth is really where the zero gap is in the design. So when you go to finalize your design, it's going to ask you how much glue space, and it's not going to ask you. It's preset and it's there. And you're going to tell it that I think it's a preset of 0.17 is that glue space for that fused material. And then the zero to actually make it seat is in those connectors. So you really don't want supports in those connector areas if you can help it. This is an example of what that print base looks like coming off of a Carbon. As you can see, those were printed vertically, basically on their face from the buccal aspect. Like I said, you're going to have to go back and they're going to have to go back and finish all that stuff. And we've moved on from that. I told you before, you've got to clean all your parts in 99% isopropyl alcohol. It really needs to be an ultrasonic cleaner, not any of these other washes or whirls or any of that stuff. It really needs that frequency to get that residual resin off of that print so that you're able to get back to just what CAD produced. this is a great video that I'd love to produce another video of these, but Jimmy Stiegel did such a great job producing this. There's just no reason to. This is him printing denture teeth, and the video to the far right is him actually going through that cleaning process. So I use a 2-in-2 method. So it's 2 minutes in one bucket, and then a toothbrush with washing with the alcohol itself. And that can be a dirty wash. And then you're going to go back into a new clean wash with the isopropyl alcohol for another 2 minutes, and then another brush. And then you're done from there, and you're ready to, I like to let my material set for just a little while to get that residual alcohol free. And then you're ready to start fusing. This is an example of that conditioning agent and how you're going to condition the back sides of those IPN teeth. Like I said, if you're going to utilize these, this is what you'd have to do with the milled PMMA or the Cardo teeth. But if you're going to print, you don't have to worry about this stuff. This is an example of Jimmy. These are the single teeth. So these are more than likely, these are those 3D IPNs that he is fusing together. You can see on the left, he's placing the fuse tube in the sockets. And what's really great is you kind of put just a little bit more material in those sockets that you need, allow it to kind of spill over, kind of ensuring that you've got enough in there. And then you're able just to kind of wipe it down on the base. And you end up with those little small print lines that need to kind of be filled in anyways. So it's perfect just to utilize that. And then the example on the far right is the Fuse 3 total in how you're going to go back around, fill in any gaps that you may have had, and again, paint the denture. And this is just a quick video. The middle video is him prepping that backside. So this is after cleaning, after breaking off all the supports from the print. You've got to go back and you've got to manually make sure that you've got those supports gone, cleaned up, and then you're going to want to dry fit before you start going to fuse. Make sure that you get back to that seat that you're wanting, and that ensures that your output is exactly what your CAD was. Like I said before, you've got to cure these in validated boxes. It's not just about the wavelength. This particular material needs heat to cure. And these 2 boxes are the ones that they're offering now. Originally, they had a speed cure option, which you'll see a couple photos. And really, the main difference in these 2 units is capacity, really. So as you can see, 9 arches for the bigger guy, and then 5 arches for the smaller. And really, depending on the arch size and depending on the appliance, you could probably squeeze a couple more in there. And then what you're going to see, because there's heat, and because there's heat needed, and because these are LED units, the bigger unit takes a little bit longer to heat up, and that's the only reason that it takes a little bit longer to cure. But I've got experience with the speed cure, and I've got experience with the smaller white box. For whatever reason, the products that come out of the white box feel a little bit nicer, and they feel like they've been through less trauma, if for lack of a better word. The speed cure cures it faster, but it's in a much hotter environment. And just like any traditional acrylics, anything that cures fast has a tendency to potentially be brittle. And I've never been a proponent of doing things too quickly when it comes to curing and hardening. So these are a couple photos of that older speed cure unit, and I still have it. So it's fun to use whenever you need something quick. But I love my other little box. And then this material, even though the preferred option is to paint it with that step 3, you can use a traditional pumice and polish if you'd like on these. So you can see there in this photos, he's removing those supports. Like I said before, you've got to have those supports all the way through the curing process, and that ensures that print quality. And these are images of that Fuse 3 all over. Like I said, you can see the characterization on those denture teeth. You can see the sheen, and I tell you, this stuff, it holds up. It's really nice. Now let's go into reference dentures. We mentioned it before. Like I said, when I first got into all of this, LDP was my absolute passion, because revitalized my career, gave me something to really look forward to and get into the office to work on. And this has become a little bit of my new passion. And there's a lot of people that are doing these, but it's really fun what the capabilities could possibly be once we all get into the digital denture world. We're technicians. Like, every day we come in, we find something that saves us 10 seconds, and we act like it's a breakthrough because it's going to save us time. It's the same thing. Like, once we all get in here, we're all going to find these little nuances that can help us be better and ultimately help our patients. This patient was presented to us. Now, this patient was a great patient. 70-year-old lady. She, for whatever reason, she's had dentures since she was 19. I believe she's had 5 pairs of dentures throughout her life. She absolutely loved her current dentures. I didn't personally love her current dentures, but she loved her current dentures. She was getting tired of the teeth breaking down, chipping, breaking off. And it was just time. I think these dentures were 9 or 10 years old. It was just time for her to get a new set. So she wanted to replicate what she had as close as she possibly could, but she wanted to kind of correct that little bit of a reverse smile that she had. Some of it was from chipping, but some of it was also from the tooth arrangement. So this was our goals for our first appointment. So, like I talked about with the digital side of things, the data collection is the most valuable piece for us to be able to communicate back and forth with the docs, with the patients. So the goals in this appointment is to figure out exactly what this person really, really likes about their denture and what they don't. And then let's try to utilize it as a communication tool. So within this, we did a wash impression on the upper and the lower. Obviously in centric relation, like all your clinicians would do. Then we had they intraoral scanned the denture, and they scanned the upper and lower, and then they scanned a bite. Okay. And then after that, they took the dentures out, and then we scanned the intaglio surface of that wash impression. So our goals are to get custom impressions and a wax bright in the same appointment. So this is our first appointment. And then now we take that data back and we start putting the pieces together. So we've got that was a first scan of her current dentures and the bite. This is our lower intaglio scan. This is our upper intaglio scan. And now the challenge is I've got to get that upper intaglio scan oriented with the lower intaglio scan so I can get started to build a denture. And I'm just kind of showing you all the pieces as they were. So now there's her scan that they did in the office. Here's the alignment of the upper denture. So we align that. And there's our lower. And now so we've got the outer surface aligned. Now all we have to do is align the inner surface, which is the intaglio. So we have aligned the upper intaglio, and you see how it's kind of dappled. That really shows you that you've ensured that alignment. So now from there, we've used the custom tray and we've used the bite, and now we have a new relationship with the upper and the lower. So from there, we're able to move in to designing our new denture. Within 3Shape, you have to tell it what you want to build off of. So you've got to get those two models oriented, and you've got to get to a point where those are your working models. Now those are my working models. I'm able to bring back in those other images of her denture and do the same alignment, bring them back together. And now I'm into creating her new dentures based off of the wash impression, which is going to improve the fit of those existing dentures. It's going to be incredibly accurate impression. And then we're gonna play with her tooth arrangement. Like I said, we're trying to correct that reverse smile, and which kind of took her plane occlusion down just slightly. And then there's a couple little nuances that we followed. I'll show you. This is the arrangement, and then that's her existing denture. So you can see just kind of like that immediate denture arrangement that we did. I'm able to get that arch width where I want it. I'm able to make all the teeth the same shape, mold, form that she's accustomed to. And I'm even able to see that I've corrected that reverse smile by bringing that incisal edge down just slightly. And then you would go through with the rest of your design the same way you would with creating any other denture. This was our outcome. So you can see on those two centrals, we were able to kind of replicate that slight cant that she had. You can see on the two photos below, we were able to really hit pretty much dead on where her midline was. And you can also see this lower right picture, she's not taking quite as big of a smile. But you can see that we corrected that reverse smile that she was creating there with all that chipping. And there she is, happy as can be. So that was her delivery appointment. So first appointment, we got all that data, go to fabrication. Again, I take the risk. I could have essentially done a try-in appointment with this, but that's something that I've kind of taken out of my mindset, really. And it's worth taking the risk for me. So she went from 4 traditional appointments to 2. Obviously, she may have to come back and make some adjustments, just like any typical denture patient. But stats are saying with LDP, you're going to get less of those adjustments. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fit and just the consistency that you're getting. She's got the same tooth, same form. She's got her exact centric relation that she's used to. And that's one of the big things when you get denture patients. They go to a try-in, they try it in. Sometimes their complaint is, it doesn't feel like my old denture. And reference dentures give you the ability to get that feel that it feels like my old denture, and it kind of gets you through those hurdles. Like I said, we followed those characteristics of her current arrangement. She got a even better fit than she had before. And like I said, how can you not refer a friend at this point, And that goes back to that slide about what's the benefit for the dentist. And the dentists don't even know enough about this yet to really utilize this as a real patient client builder. Because there's 13% of us here. I don't know do I make 14%, Fran? 15%? Maybe.
Yes.
And that's my spiel. I do want to say this, Fran, before you I've got a lot of time spent as a basketball coach. My wife is an educator. We see kids in our community all the time, and I really I take that responsibility on, because when you coach a kid or you teach a kid, you're that kid's coach forever. You're that kid's teacher forever. And when I'm speaking, or if I'm doing a webinar or whatever that is, I take on that responsibility. And if you ever have any questions, it's not just today. You can email me anytime, give me a call anytime, and I'm willing to really help you kind of transform what you're doing in your laboratory and get you into this digital space. And just, like I said, just help us get through the day. So thank you, Fran. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, John. We really appreciate having you here on Zahn Academy. I just want to let you know that we are now open for questions. So if you have any, please type them into the bottom of your screen. We have one more poll that I'd love for you to answer, if you wouldn't mind. And that's if you'd like to add Lucitone digital print to your lab's 3D printing workflow. I just want to let you all know that Zahn Academy will be coming to the West Coast with our road shows. So August 8th, we have a 3-shape design course that we're only taking 10 designers for. And on August 9th, we'll be doing a 3D printing road show. So that's the 8th and the 9th in Orange County, California. And then on September 27th, we'll be heading to Sacramento for our 3D printing road show as well. On October 17th, we will again have another 3-shape design course. And on 10/18, we will have a 3D printing course, and that will be in St. Louis, Missouri. I want to let you all know that we will be heading to Asiga, to their facility, to do a 2-day hands-on 3-shape design to fabrication course with LDP. And that will be September 12th and 13th. And that's over in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So you can go to zahndental.com and Eventbrite to sign up for any of these in-person courses. We'd love to have you there. It's a great day of learning. We're learning from industry experts as well as our peers. So it's really a great time. So please go to the websites and sign up. We'd love to have you. Again, if you have any questions, you can type them in for John. But if you think of something in the near future, you can always go to Zahn Dental at henryschein.com, type in the question, email it over to us, and we will get that question to John, and we'll get the answer to you. So I, again, want to thank everybody for joining us today at Zahn Academy. We love having you. And Champa, I hear that you are on with us. Erica told me that you're here, and she is such a great friend to Zahn and a great customer. So I just want to shout out to her. We love having our customers that come out to all of our trade shows and meet with us, join us on Zahn Academy for some great education. So thanks again for joining, and I want to wish everybody a wonderful day. John, again, we thank you, and we thank Dentsply Sirona for getting us in touch with you. Have a great day, everybody.